exciting AWE live event. Thank you all for joining us today. We've got an extraordinary guest for you today, a true pioneer, an AR champion for over a decade, a product leader, and an XR Hall of Famer. He's now adding another milestone to his journey, author of the highly anticipated book, The Next Dimension. But first, we kicked off the year with a bold debate. Will 2024 be a breakthrough year for XR? Well, now, 10 months later, it's time to ask, did it live up to the hype?
Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your hats because we're off to the races. Apple rockets out of the gate with a bold move. They launch the Vision Pro and boom, they're setting a brand new standard for mixed reality. The fans are on their feet and it looks like Apple's got an early lead in this fast-paced XR showdown. But look out, here comes Meta, the reigning champion. They aren't about to sit back and let Apple run away with this one. Meta teases us with details of their upcoming Quest 3 headset and the crowd goes wild. Apple's Vision Pro hits the track, sparking a frenzy among developers, but Meta's hot on their heels. This race is just getting started. But hang on, X-Real's making their move, bursting onto the scene with the X-Real Air Ultra 2. They're in this race to win. Wait a minute, Snap has just entered the race with a brand new version of Spectacles, adding yet another thrilling twist to this high-stakes showdown. And here comes Meta again. They're pulling out all the stops. Meta storms back, launching the Quest 3S, which is officially the most affordable mixed reality headset on the track. And wait, there's more! Meta has just thrown down the gauntlet with a prototype of their Orion AR glasses. They're pulling ahead, ladies and gents, and Apple's in the rear view mirror. Could Meta be pushing Apple to rethink their play? Meanwhile, Sony's joining the party with a big swing toward the productivity crowd. They've got a new spatial mixed reality headset lined up, set to launch at year's end. But the race isn't slowing down, folks. HTC and Pico are stepping up. They're a little behind, but they're making up ground, pushing the limits with advanced mixed reality features. And what's this? Samsung is still stretching and warming up. They're cooking up something big with Qualcomm and Google, waiting for the perfect moment to jump into the action. They may be keeping a low profile, but don't count them out. When they enter the race, they'll bring the heat. It's a nail-biter as we approach the final lap. Meta holds the lead. Apple's breathing down their neck, and HTC and Pico are neck and neck in the midfield. Sony's making their move, aiming for a late-game splash. Who's going to pull out the big win? In the fast-paced world of XR, it's anyone's game, folks. Buckle up. It's going to be a photo finish.
Woo! Yes, it was an exciting year for sure. According to our home analyst, Artillery Intelligence, the XR market size is reaching $25 billion this year. And it's the fastest growing tech sector after AI. And as we witnessed in the opening animation, the XR race is intensifying, and it's great for the market, it's great for customers. Also this year, mixed reality or video pass-through, or as I like to call it, AR on VR, has become a key competitive edge for every headset. And guess what? And by the way, for those who are disappointed with the market reception of the Apple Vision Pro, I have 5 words for you, and I quote the Macalope: patience is a virtual reality. Also, smart glasses and Air glasses are seeing runaway success this year. The number of units expected to be sold this year compared to last year is about to triple. On the adoption side, active usage is growing steadily, and it's growing where it matters, the next generation. You know, we heard from a report just a few months ago that 1 in 4 teens in the US plays VR. And the enterprise market is becoming the major driver for XR market growth. It's now 71% of the overall XR market. So if you're hungry for near-term revenue, enterprise is the place to be. And investors, such as Andreessen Horowitz, are bullish about XR. They say the time is now. I know some of you still feel, it's hard to raise for a startup. But this year, there's a ton of new resources, programs, an explosion of hackathons and funding going into XR with things like Speedrun, Meta Lifestyle Accelerator, and many, many others. And this is attracting new developers and startups. By my estimate, based on the startup pitch competitions that we've run at AWE, there's now close to 2 million XR developers worldwide. Finally, the biggest trend of the year, of course, XR is establishing itself as the preferred interface for AI. In fact, AI and XR have become a power couple. AR, heart, XR is my new slogan. And it's because they're stronger together. And if you ask me, XR is probably the better half in this couple. It prevents AI from getting out of control, and it keeps humans at the center. So yeah, I think it's a pretty awesome year for XR. I want you all to give yourself a big round of applause for working so hard to advance XR. You, yes, you and you and you deserve it. All right, so what's next? Can you guys smell it? Can you hear it? You all ready for this? I'm going to say it. I'm saying it. XR is going mainstream. There, I said it. I truly believe that the XR revolution is ready to reach everyone. But to conquer the mainstream, we need more developers and creators of all kinds to produce diverse content that resonates with every single person on the planet. That's how we conquer the mainstream. All right, that's enough with the slides. If you're looking for a reliable guide with proven ideas and a clear vision, look no further because we have it right here. Give it up for the XR Hall of Famer and author of The Next Dimension, Tom Emrich.
Hi, Ari. Thank you so much. And hi, everybody. So good to be here. By the way, Ari, I love the AWE chime in the beginning. That is just brilliant.
Awesome. So how's it going, my friend Tom? Can you hear the standing ovation?
I appreciate it. Being part of the XR community has been a highlight of my life, especially my time at AWE. We've grown significantly, as you've seen, and you've been instrumental in nurturing. But the support for AR, the support for XR, the support for my contribution, which is this new book, has been amazing. So I'm very grateful, very humbled, and I'm happy to be here to talk to you about it.
That's awesome, Tom. So it seems like you had a great year. Was it a breakthrough year for you?
I think so. I mean, I have not stopped being extremely passionate, excited, optimistic about augmented reality since 2009. So I think every year it just keeps getting better. Something brand new comes about. There's still new ground to break. But I remember very clearly working with you and seeing in the expo parts on a table, and we're at like next generation devices. This is incredible. It's an exciting time.
Absolutely. So, by the way, you can all see the Tom's new book behind him, The Next Dimension. So now you're officially a triple threat, Tom, right? Singer, dancer, and now author.
But we need to be doing a musical at AWE. I know some folks that are interested.
All right, awesome. So let's dig into the book, and I want to start with the conclusion. In the book, you say it's not the future; it's the present.
Yes.
So are we there yet?
Yeah, I mean, this book I really wanted to write as a love letter to what is happening in augmented reality. I've had the fortunate opportunity to wear a number of different hats, some with you, of course, and seen firsthand how augmented reality is moving the needle today. And while I think when you're in the space, you have your eye on, the holy grail, which is when we're wearing AR glasses every day, all day, and certainly we're making progress towards that. This book is really celebrating how brands, how marketers, how businesses are harnessing augmented reality today, and primarily they're doing that through mobile and smartphone as the mechanism. And so a big bulk of the book is exploring the proof points, the ROI, the case studies that are out there, that I've just brought together to really celebrate what brands are doing, how they're moving the needle, how they're seeing success, what learnings they're having. And all of these are going to be really necessary as we move into the next part, this next phase of our journey, which is more of a wearable phase. And so, yeah, this book it tips its hat to the future, of course, but it's very much rooted in what's happening with augmented reality in the present. So I appreciate you picking up on that.
I love it. No, it's it's happening now. Everything is good enough. It's just a matter of building great content, as I said in the opening.
100%.
And
100%.
you also introduce a new interesting term in your book, the awakening of technology, which, by the way, I searched online. There was no mention since maybe 30 years ago. What is this about?
So I was trying to figure out how to explain spatial computing. And actually, in a talk that I did at Startup Fest a long time ago in Ottawa, I had this GIF of a brain in glass, and I used that to explain what's happening with augmented reality in particular. So let me connect that to awakening. For me, this next wave of computing is about computers or technology awakening to their ability to understand the world. And so at the crux of spatial computing is the ubiquity of sensors and the advancements in artificial intelligence, especially machine learning. And then you combine that with brand new devices like AR, VR headsets, autonomous vehicles, and also robots. And by giving computers sensors, they're now able to make sense of the world, and therefore they can understand the world. And this is going to make them much smarter and more contextual and allow for them to be more meaningful. And this is important because essentially they're waking up to the world, and they're able to then collect information about what's around us on their own. And this is a marked difference than the information age, where we've been spending a lot of time feeding computers information, by uploading videos and doing blogs and Wikipedia pages. And so this is one of the big changes that is happening with spatial computing, is its ability to make sense of the world. With AI and ML, they're able to perceive the world. They not just see the world, or they not just get visual images of the world, but they actually see the world. And so I find that really exciting. This allows for them to navigate 3D space. And then when combined with AR, VR headsets, they can then edit our perception of the world. So they can edit our sense of the world. And that's essentially what augmented reality and virtual reality is. And so this ability to have perception, this ability to be in the world and be in this dimension, this physical dimension with us, is really what I was trying to kind of hit home in the book as the big change. Thus the awakening of technology.
I love it. I love this metaphor of describing spatial computing. Could be a great John Carpenter movie title, by the way. So Tom, publishing a book, I know, because I've been trying to do it for a long time, is really a ton of really, really hard work. And the big question is, where did you draw the motivation to take on such an Herculean task? and a little bit about kind of the process. I mean, what is, like, you spend like an hour every day on it, or you take a long vacation and you write? What's kind of your approach?
Well, this book has been like an actual year in the making, this specific project. So almost around the same time, maybe a little bit earlier, last November, I was approached by my now publisher, Wiley, who has really supported the XR community with a number of various authors. And they reached out to see if I was interested in writing about augmented reality. I wasn't surprised, because if you know anything about me, I've been tweeting and posting and talking about augmented reality as long as I've had social media. It's been like the one consistent thing. Yeah. And so I'm sure they were like, we need to give this guy a book, so maybe he can say what he needs to say and give people a break for a bit. So they reached out to me, and I would say I went into this thinking the book was going to be a lot faster. And so my original deadline was much earlier. And I kind of based it on the fact that I had been doing a lot of blog posts. I was a journalist in the past. And so, I kind of thought, well, this is about like X number of blog posts. I can do this. But I soon found out, as you pointed out, that books are a lot more challenging. I think the biggest hill to climb is really getting the structure right and figuring out how you want to organize the book and what you want the book to be known for, and therefore what should be in the book, what shouldn't be in the book. One thing that I really wanted to make sure I did with this book was be like very focused. I did not want this book to be a book about emerging technology. I wanted it to be a book about augmented reality. And then even further, I wanted it to be a book about augmented reality and its use in business, particularly marketing, advertising, and sales. And so I think that really helped me put the guardrails on to understand like where I want to go, because augmented reality is a very wide technology. You can go in so many different places. It is changing every single industry, you know, healthcare, training. And so the first thing was, you know, what is this book not going to be? And then putting, you know, pen to paper and getting the structure down. And then really it's just about fighting that blank page and just like putting something on the Google Doc and getting a reaction. I wrote, you know, after hours and on the weekends, pretty much, and then any holiday that I had. So it was a second job for sure, but it was a joy because it allowed me to process a lot of the things that I've been thinking about, especially early in the book, which is a little bit of, you know, how Tom makes sense of augmented reality, and then go and do a lot of research and celebrate a lot of the public information that is out there that just needed to be pieced together to help, you know, marketers and brands and businesses understand, you know, what activity has been out there, whether that's, you know, going and downloading apps on a MR headset or going into case studies, you know, via the various platforms. So it was great to go down memory road and memory lane, and also I learned a lot, you know, through the process and found some new things that I hadn't seen before, which is so amazing to be able to pass on to the reader.
Thank you on behalf of the entire community for taking so much time to put all these things together. I think we'll all benefit from that. I'm getting mine on December 7th, so really can't wait to get it. Now let's talk about the name. Super cool name, The Next Dimension. What's the origin of that?
So the name is a collaboration between you and the publisher, and so we had a couple of different names. I had written a blog post a long time ago, not a long time, maybe a couple of years ago, called Advertising in the Next Dimension. And so the Next Dimension had kind of swirled around. I think, you know, I talk a little bit about this in the book, but the one of the biggest changes, in addition to, you know, giving computers the ability to perceive the world, is this shift in dimension, literally, and from 2D to 3D. And in fact, you know, a big part of the book is talking about how businesses need to really figure out their 3D strategy. And that 3D strategy is not just about AR, VR headsets, but it's also about 3D on 2D, you know, like using 3D on websites, or even using 3D, you know, assets in television commercials and magazine ads we've seen. And so I really wanted to hit home the fact that this is a marked shift from the wave that we have been in so far, and that it's rooted in really unlocking, you know, the Z axes, and that we've been working on XY for quite a bit. And I know Dimension is very close to your heart as well on the AWE side. One of my favorite keynotes is about you remind me of the book that is about flatlands, or it's called Flatlands, right? Yeah, it's one of my favorites, so I know you get it.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan. I already prepared the shirt, you can see. Enter the Next Dimension. That's of course from AWE in 2019, where I mentioned that Flatland and was really about the same ideas. So glad it's you picked that name. Now let's stop the internet for a second and talk about your augmented book cover, which is so awesome. Can we take a look at that?
That's great. So
talk to us about it.
Yeah. Well, listen, the book is about augmented reality, and I wanted to make sure that there was augmented reality actually being able to be experienced with the book. It was a non-negotiable, and so I teamed up with iJack, which is an amazing creative agency. The founder there, Sutu, who we know, and has worked with AWE quite a bit. And I wanted to make sure that the readers, especially new readers that may be new to augmented reality, had the chance to see it in action. They use Niantic's 8-ball technology, which is web-based augmented reality. So readers just scan the QR code at the back of the book, point their smartphone at the front of the book, and it comes to life like you saw. And I think it really hits home on a lot of the themes in the book, including, making the ordinary extraordinary, bringing physical products to life. And it gives a little bit of a wow factor. So definitely a good coffee table book for folks who over the holidays want something to talk about with their friends and family, for sure.
Awesome. So now that we have enjoyed the cover, let's open the book and look inside. So I want to talk about kind of the primary goal of the book. Is it to spark excitement with businesses about the possibilities of AR, or is it more about practical guide for how to do it, for how to implement it once you already have an idea?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say it's a bit of both, but my hope is that businesses use this as a guide to implement. I would love for this book to inspire businesses to implement strategies that are rooted in augmented reality for 2025. Like, that would be amazing to hear folks say, your book helped me, with creating the business case. Your book gave me the confidence. Your book allowed me to communicate the value of augmented reality to my stakeholders. That's really what this book is meant to do. And actually, I organized it in such a way that really should help, folks that are looking to make sense of augmented reality from a business perspective, make that easier. And so every chapter starts with like 3 things you need to know. And so if you only have like 5 minutes, you can just skim the first 3 bullets, and it gives you a sense as to like what that chapter is about. And then at the end of each chapter, I have a section called Sparking Spatial Strategies. And those are thought starters and questions that you can ask like around the boardroom or around the water cooler or with your team. And so it's really meant to be put into action. And I will say that, my perspective within the AR space has been less from a technology perspective, but more from a human value perspective. Mm-hmm. And so this book really is led with consumer value, user value. And so it doesn't get into the weeds on coding or, the ins and outs of how the technology from a hardware display, chips and components works. It's really about how this technology is being used to change the dynamic between brands, businesses, and customers and users.
So it's AR for business growth. Are there any specific types of industries or verticals that benefit more from the book?
I think it's all, but I mean, we've seen a lot of luxury brands get involved. So there's a lot of examples from the likes of Gucci, for example, Diageo. We've seen a lot of entertainment. NBC Universal is featured in this book as well. We've seen a lot of fashion and gaming, toys. Lego, Minecraft is also some of the campaigns that are here. And also, fast food chains, Burger King, McDonald's. So it really runs the gamut. Automotive is also like featured here, but a lot of this is really rooted in how to use augmented reality for these brands from a marketing perspective. And so a lot of talk around marketing goals, how this is changing, advertising and advertising from an out-of-home kind of billboard perspective, but as well as the digital advertising landscape, like banners, and then also from a selling and sales perspective, especially around how AR can bring a tangibility to e-commerce, or how it can gamify, the in-store retail experience and kind of draw people to that. And so you'll see a lot of examples that kind of hit on those ways in which augmented reality can be used today.
So augmented reality, you decided to focus exclusively on that part of the reality virtuality continuum.
Yes.
And I'm asking, why? Because, I think what we've seen in the last decade or so is that when businesses look for solutions, AR, VR are kind of different tools that they see in the same bucket in a way. So why kind of decide to draw the line? Why only focus on one side of the spectrum?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I focused on augmented reality because I wanted to give it more, time in the sun. There are a lot of books about metaverse and a lot of books about virtual reality, and so I really wanted to make sure that there was a book specifically about augmented reality. Also, like the book, of course, like talks about the relationship between augmented reality, the difference between augmented reality, mixed reality, and virtual reality. There's some good examples in here about talking about moving between mixed reality and virtual reality. But there's enough content out there to specifically talk about augmented reality and the experience of augmented reality, which is essentially, bringing digital content into the physical space. And so I don't stray too far from there outside of tipping my hat to those relationships. And I think it's important because although, yes, VR and AR are two sides to the same coin, the experience, especially for the consumer, is very different. Both use space in a different way, and harnessing space is the new medium. Space is the new medium for businesses and brands. But remixing your reality versus wiping your reality away and entering a simulation is two different types of content. And I wanted to focus on the remixing of reality first, the augmented reality. And so this is what this book is all about.
Yeah, I love the fact that you put more spotlight on AR. It doesn't have enough of that, enough books. I have a bunch here on my shelf, but this is more about kind of the business aspect of it. So really appreciate you doing this. But with a lot of the mixed reality and what I mentioned, is video pass through, the line between AR and VR is kind of becoming more blurry. I mean, the same device is used for both.
Yeah.
So where do you draw the line, if at all, or maybe it's not that important?
I think the easiest line to draw is like, do you see the world? Do you see digital content with the world? That's like the easiest way to do that. I mean, because we have optical see-through and video pass-through is kind of the two main ways, but both share something in common, which is I see digital chair in my room and also see my physical objects at the same time. And so that's really kind of the razor that I used and the line that I drew for the book. So that mixing together of the digital with the physical, that blending of the digital and physical is really what the focus is for the next dimension.
Makes a ton of sense. So one of the fundamental terms in XR is presence. And in your book, you describe it with kind of a new twist as sort of the fifth P of marketing. So how does it really change the way businesses engage with consumers?
Well, I really wanted to hit home that perception and presence are some fundamental ingredients for this next wave of computing.
What are the other
of
four?
Spatial computing.
The other four. P's.
The four P's of marketing are product, price, place, and promotion. So these are traditional P's that marketers use as they put together their marketing strategies. And so what I wanted to introduce kind of cheekily is this new fifth P, as you said, which is presence. And with presence, it really talks about a couple of things. The first is the fact that, of course, like the marketing content is in the physical space with the consumer. And so, as we just said, with blending the physical with the digital, and now instead of talking about a chair, for example, and showing the price and showing the picture or even the video, as you would in traditional marketing strategies, you can now place the chair in the consumer's home and allow for them to get around it and see it with their other furniture. So this ability to have your product present in the physical space is a fundamental shift for businesses. And then in addition, as this is digital content, you can give the consumer the ability to interact, with that content. And so they can either, for in the case of the chair example, they can change They can change out the material, the color, they can add embellishments, which we've seen in the past. And so there's a new dynamic, a new relationship that presence brings to the table. As soon as you bring that product out from behind the screen or the magazine, you now invite the consumer as an active participant. And so that interactivity, that action, that ability to take up space and harness space is a brand new tool for marketers. And it also allows for the consumer to have a much more personalized experience. That's another real key ingredient that AR brings to the table. AR is intrinsically personal. And if you've been following the trends in marketing in particular, marketers have been really craving ways in which that they can speak directly to a consumer, because consumers are expecting that, especially Gen Z. Gen Z is expecting, these brands to speak directly to them, to know them, to get them. And so with AR making use of that consumer's face or space, it's intrinsically personal. It's not the same. When I place that same digital chair in my living room and you do it in your house, immediately that marketing experience is different. And so that's what's also really exciting about harnessing space, harnessing augmented reality, and making or presence the new fifth P for marketers. And the last thing I'll say is I talk a lot about in this book how in this next wave, it's a real additive approach. And so if you're a marketer or you've been working in business for a while, when we move and as we move into the era of spatial computing, every single strategy and tactic and experience that you've had comes to the table. And so presence is one of the the P's that you use. And in fact, it enhances the 4 P's through product demonstration. So everything you're doing with price and promotion and product just gets amplified. And so I think it's important, especially for newcomers who might be trying to figure out, how do I maneuver through the use of augmented reality for my business? It's not about throwing everything away that you know and love and learned. It's about enhancing it and figuring out how to use that in a brand new way. And so the book talks a little bit about this as we explore the fifth P,
Five
which is
P's
presence.
of marketing.
5
You heard
P's.
it here first. But you mentioned Generation X, Generation Z, and I want to touch on that because in the opening I mentioned that the growth, the adoption growth, is happening where it matters with the next generation. And in the book you call them the Generation AR. So who are these people, and what should companies do to engage them?
So yeah, Generation AR for me in the book, I explained, was Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Gen Beta. Already Gen Z, and especially Gen Alpha, who is born 2010, to 2024-ish, are already living in a time when augmented reality is a reality. So, millennial, Gen Z in particular, heavy users of Snapchat, for example, and mobile AR. And so here, very much growing up with filters and lenses and the ability to look at a smartphone through the smartphone camera and smartphone display and see the world in a brand new way, making the world extraordinary. Starting with spewing rainbows all the way through to AI-enabled lenses that can become a time machine. We've seen that already. As we fast forward through Gen Alpha, a generation that's growing up with mixed reality headsets, especially from a gaming perspective. And then Gen Beta, which is expected to be the generation after, starting around 2025 through to 2039. That generation really has the opportunity to be a wearable first generation, whether that be the ubiquity of mixed reality headsets or the emergence of augmented reality glasses. We're seeing kind of the writing on the walls as to where we're at with these new devices as part of the consumer device constellation. And so in the book, I talk a lot about Gen Beta and how Gen Beta in particular could be the wearable version of the iPad generation. We saw how instrumental the iPad generation is and was to businesses and brands. as a generation that grew up expecting to hold a piece of glass and tap on it and get access to essentially the digital world.
Babies
Yep,
pinching their screen.
exactly. Going up to televisions and magazines. And so, with Gen Beta coming into the world 2025 onwards, I think it is entirely possible that at least the later half of that generation growing up with, wearable devices on a regular basis.
What will
And
be
so,
different about them as they grow up with it?
well, I think it's exactly like how we saw with the iPad generation, which is, I think, a couple things that I noted was, as you pointed out, just like this default expectation. It's like the new norm. The new norm is you see a screen and you should be able to interact with the screen. You see a screen and you should be able to get information from that screen. You see a screen and you should be able to get it's opportunity. It's unlimited information. I think like the iPad generation also really inspires the generation and unleashes creativity and imagination in brand new ways. And so we've seen this all with technology, and in turn, it means that the brands and businesses need to figure out how to harness that new device, that new platform, to be able to speak to folks. So I think that's going to be the same for wearables. And I find myself, even, and I know I'm an early adopter and I'm already drinking the Kool-Aid with the technology, but even when I'm in mixed reality headsets, if I'm in them long enough and I come out, I do catch myself wanting to do a couple of interactions, or I still see screens. I mean, and that's just like the beginning, I think. And so to go back to your question, I think there's going to be like a brand new expectation for especially that latter half of Gen Beta, and because of the fact that they're going to be growing up in a world where they see wearable devices be used on a regular basis, that they themselves are using it very early on, and therefore like businesses need to be ready for that. And the good news is that you can start being ready for that now, and should be ready for that now. And Gen Z and Gen Alpha are looking for these strategies to be in place, and so now is definitely the time to engage Generation AR.
I think those who will grow up with it since birth will be more visual than textual, in a sense. And that means that also all the user experience that we're building into those headsets, the glasses, need to take that into account and use less text and more visual cues, because you're not going to want to have all this text around you. We don't want this hyper reality vision. We want something that is a lot more intuitive, that works like the natural world itself, right? So I think we need to think more about that new generation, the Generation AR that you're talking about.
100%. Actually, back in 2019, speaking of keynotes, I did a keynote called "The Death of Reality" on the AWE stage, and one thing I talked about was the change in education and how education moves from knowledge-based to more simulation-based. And so I think that's another example of a potential change. It's instead of like reading about history, like you're experiencing it in some ways and being able to be there. And we've already seen like little glimpses into that, but perhaps Gen Beta will fully realize that dream. It's really exciting. You'd probably have an entire book on Gen Beta, and probably there probably will be.
Are you getting started on something? All right, Tom, so far we talked a lot about theory and concepts and ideas, but I want to get to the fun part, which is really explore some of the examples you're seeing out there, starting with some of the mobile AR examples that kind of really capture your attention, your imagination, and then moving on to kind of more headset experiences.
Yeah, so let's start with mobile. So there's a lot of mobile experiences here. And so I explore a lot of different platforms, especially the social AR platforms. We have, Snapchat, TikTok, and also Spark AR, which is for Instagram and Facebook. And then also a real good focus on web-based augmented reality as well, which I thought was very important, especially because there is and has been a lot of activity within the marketing sphere using web-based AR, mainly due to the fact that web-based AR significantly reduces the friction for smartphone AR by just letting everybody scan a QR code. So I'm just going to talk about 2 mobile examples, and then I'd love to move over to what's happening in mixed reality headsets. One of my favorite examples of how e-commerce is changing with augmented reality, mobile augmented reality, was an 8th Wall example, which is a web-based augmented reality platform, where Rock Paper Reality, an agency, teamed up with Saatchi Art. And Saatchi Art sells art online, and they wanted to use augmented reality to let their users, their consumers, place photos and paintings in their room, so they can view the art in their room. And so they actually integrated the web-based augmented reality as part of their e-commerce site. And this allowed for over 1 million works of art to be able to be viewed on the walls of your home, which really lends itself to increasing the confidence of your buying decision, because you can actually see art, not just see the art, but also see the size. So it's like, does it fit on my wall? Does it look good with my furniture and what's in the room? What I like about this example is that Rock Paper Reality worked with Saatchi Art on a solution that could grow and allow for more inventory to be added on the fly, by making use of the metadata and the 3D canvases, and allowing for new inventory and new items to be seen within augmented reality. So it's a very savvy business solution. And Saatchi Art also, in a public case study, indicated that 17%, they saw 70% higher average spending among users that use the web AR experience. So they saw some good ROI, and in fact, they also cited that it had a conversion rate of 4 times greater than non-AR users. And so not only is this a really compelling use case, I think people get it right away. Not only is this a great business solution that really shows how you can integrate AR into your existing, e-commerce investment, but it also, speaks to how AR is moving the needle. So really good example there. Another example that I really like in retail was Big W teaming up with Minecraft and creating a gamified experience where there were QR codes around the actual physical store. So now we're moving away from the digital retail experience to the in-store retail experience. And there we saw how consumers could go around and scan QR codes that were related to Minecraft, signage within the store, and then play Minecraft augmented reality games in order to collect tokens along the way, and then use those tokens to allow for them to be inspired to get Minecraft products. And so what I like about that example is really gamifying the retail experience. And so where on the e-commerce side, you see augmented reality be used to give e-commerce that physicality, like almost make it feel like retail, because you can see the product and put it into physical space. On the flip side, you can use augmented reality to gamify, the physical real world space, bring a digital component to it. And so I think those are, kind of 2 sides that augmented reality is changing the retail landscape. And if we flip over to mixed reality headsets, there's been some real good new pioneers within mixed reality headsets. And the one that I always go to is what Gucci did with their documentary, Who is Sabato Di Sarno. And it's a fantastic documentary. So first off, it's just a great documentary. I believe Mark Ronson music's in it, and it's just a good watch. And so I definitely recommend watching this. It's on the Apple Vision Pro. But what I really like about this is that this was a real good example of an mixed reality experience that was 2D with just enough spatial elements. And so the experience is a video. And so essentially you're watching video. Of course, that video is sitting in your physical space, because that is something that the Vision Pro brings to the table. And so you're seeing the video, it is in your space. So in some ways it has been spatialized. But what I really noted as I watched that video is that Gucci did three things on a consistent basis within that documentary that made it really special for the Vision Pro. The first is, in specific places in the video, they would fly in 3D animations. So while you're watching the documentary, when they feature an airport, all of a sudden over the video panel, you'll see an airplane animation, like a 3D airplane. And it will just come in and come out. And so there were these really, cute and meaningful moments that made it even more powerful to be watching in the Vision Pro, almost like a movie theater like experience, but better, because even in a movie theater, you wouldn't be able to do that without 3D glasses. And then the second was they often would wipe your room away and bring you into the immersive environment. So when you were watching the place in the video where they were talking about the runway and the fashion show, you actually were watching that video on the runway. So no longer could you see your room, you were on the runway. And then the third thing that they did is that they had in certain places the option for the viewer to pause the video and then interact with 3D objects in a carousel. They were extremely high quality, which is really great for Gucci because they were also showing some of their their apparel. And so you really have that opportunity to either keep watching the video or stop and then get up close, rotate, zoom in, zoom out on physical product. And they did that consistently throughout the film. So there was definitely a formula that they seemed to be using, and it was very, very well done. And it convinced me that this hybrid like experience is I think like a really easy way for brands to get involved because they're leveraging something that they already have, the 2D video. It got me really excited about, again, this next dimension, just like thinking about 3D, bringing 3D to 2D, strategies. And so if you haven't used it, I would recommend, going and downloading the Gucci app. Can't talk about it enough.
Fun examples. And you mentioned rock, paper, reality. They recently did a project with Google Maps Live View, where they augment actual locations, attractions, around Paris. Have you seen that project? Do you see that being used for businesses in some ways?
Yeah, actually, Rock Paper Reality also did a Google geospatial experience in San Francisco in Japantown for, I believe it was called the Paper Tree. It was like an origami store, and so I also featured that in the book. They've been doing some really fantastic examples on how to use geospatial augmented reality, which makes it really powerful for businesses because it draws folks to your physical brick and mortar location, which is a big draw. So imagine having, turning your store into a theme park essentially is what it can do. And then it gives a new reason to visit something that many people may have already visited, and or gives them a reason to, instead of maybe shopping online if they're local, to actually go and visit the store. So it's quite compelling.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So I think so far we talked about some of the fun stuff, the examples, and I want to go into something that is very serious to every business. At the end of the day, they have to measure the success of the implementations. The times of gimmicks and cool just for the sake of cool is over. What are some of the best practices that you recommend marketers to measure the ROI from AR initiatives?
Yes. Well, I think the first thing is measure. So, and have goals, set goals. I love what you said. I definitely believe that now is the time to set goals and see success against those goals. If you're looking for massive reach and you're looking to, see numbers, social AR, web-based AR for smartphone is still where things are at. And so there's lots of opportunity there. But overall, I think like the hero metric that seems to be coalescing within businesses' use for augmented reality is really about engagement and engagement time and other engagement metrics. And so like events around specifically about the experience itself and the actions in which consumers need to take. And I think that's important because again, like I mentioned before, a lot of the tactics and strategies that you've been using in digital are going to parlay and have already parlayed into augmented reality. So impressions and sessions and, sharing metrics, all of those are fair game and should be measured. But I think what really sets augmented reality apart is its ability to make the user an active participant, and therefore increases their emotional connection, and also their focus and attention on the branded content that you create. And so I would definitely spend a lot of time thinking about how can I goal against and or how can I measure engagement time, and use that as a hero metric for your campaign or your activation or project. I do speak a little bit about measurement in the book, measurement for MR headsets, measurement for mobile AR, and also the fact that there are some burgeoning standards that are starting to be discussed and be put into place for augmented reality. The IAB and MRC just recently published guidelines around some of the metrics that they propose should be looked at for augmented reality, and that's really exciting and also really important for marketers and businesses. So something to watch, and I definitely would recommend reading up on their thought there. So 100%, measure the analytics systems are out there. Engagement is definitely something that I would focus on and keep an eye on standards. And that being said, like it's a lot of augmented reality campaigns folks feel are being done and are launched just for PR, and certainly cutting through the noise and doing things first of its kind. There's still new ground to be broken there. So I encourage brands that are really looking for ways to harness AR in that way to celebrate that. But as you'll see in the book, and even as I mentioned with the Saatchi art example, there are proof points across the marketing funnel, from awareness through to consideration and conversion. And so certainly AR is not relegated to just top of funnel. It's not relegated to just PR. It can really move the needle on reducing returns, increasing conversion. And so hopefully you'll be inspired from the data that's in the book.
Do you mention some numbers, like some eye-popping statistics about how businesses have improved engagement, or some of these, lowering returns or things like that?
I do. There's like a smattering of different ones. The Minecraft example that I mentioned, where folks unlocked Minecraft theme portals and collected gems, contributed to a 250% increase in SKU sales during that event.
Nice.
I already mentioned like the 4-time conversion rate for Saatchi art. The Gucci AR sneaker tryout that's featured in here, it tripled new user engagement and had a 25% conversion to store rate. So there's a lot of data that is out there. These are, again, like publicly available case studies that I really wanted to celebrate, and also, again, can't say enough that there are proof points across the marketing funnel, whether it's generating awareness, a lot of impressions and shares, especially in social AR, but as well, like really triggering and causing consumers to actually go out physically purchase actual product, which at the end of the day is any business's goal. So lots of examples, lots of data points in here. So
yeah, I'm sure
you'll be happy.
These numbers can definitely get the attention of a lot of marketers out there. But for those who are still, resistant to change, they're still not sure how to get their feet wet, what are some of the practical steps you're recommending to get started?
I think the big thing is to start to experiment and start small. And so, well, the first thing is, I think even before that, I think you just need to play a little bit. And so for folks that are new, I would definitely recommend using AR. And so if you haven't been in Snapchat before, or you have used TikTok effects or an Instagram filter, that's a quick win because you have a smartphone probably with you. During the holiday, play a little bit with them and just get to know like how they're being used, what they're all about. The mixed reality headsets are at a varying price point. And so, going out and getting a mixed reality headset, downloading as much content as possible, playing with that content, encouraging your teams to do the same. I think the first thing is really just seeing what's out there. And they're augmented reality, especially on the mobile side and even in desktop or, AR mirrors in physical retail. I think when you take some time to really see how far it has come, you'll see that it has become quite a piece of fabric in consumers' lives on a regular basis. So first, play and get devices. These devices are in like third generations, and they can be quite affordable. And so go and play and get your team to play. And then also, most importantly, get your stakeholder to play, so they can see the magic of augmented reality. That's the first thing. Then put together a pilot. And with the pilot, you're going to want to set some goals. And because really what you need to do is build a business case for this. And so start small, start in a place that you feel you want to learn, you want to test, be okay with the successes as much as you are with the failures. Set this up as an experiment, and then do some baby steps to move towards entering fully the era of spatial computing. You'll see if you look back at a lot of these brands that have been featured in the book that have proof points, they've actually been working in augmented reality for quite a number of years. Lego, IKEA, Gucci, like it's been years that they've been experimenting and playing and honing their AR craft. And so playing, experimenting, those are the two things. And then I talk a lot about the book, just like the space is changing, especially on the wearable side. And so if you're committed to this and you want to be that spatial computing champion in your organization, I think it's important to adapt to like a learning approach, and just always craving information and wanting to keep up to date with what's new. And no better place to do that than at AWE and in various places. So
okay.
So
but actually, how all those who are getting started, how should they evaluate who to partner with, what kind of tools to use?
That's important.
Do you have with that in the book?
I do talk a little bit about that in the book as well. I think that's a really good point. You don't need to have all the resources in-house. And in fact, many businesses may not have 3D talent in particular, 3D modeling, 3D animation. And so my advice is to lean on your partners. You may already have partners that you are using already that you just haven't tapped into their augmented reality and virtual reality portfolio capabilities. But if not, there's a number of agencies that are highlighted in the book, and I just recommend go and find one that you feel has done work in the space, that has been showing proof points and demonstrating some success in a similar way if they have shared goals, and then for the ones that you're trying to achieve. And then again, like I think the easiest place to start is with mobile. And so finding out who is your user, and then finding where your user is. And so, social AR comes to the table with an immediate addressable audience. Those audiences have demographics. Pick which of those you feel have the audience that resonates with your brand, or go wider and have more control with web-based augmented reality, and use your own audience that you can bring to the table to tap into it. So all of these we explore in the book, but that is a really good point about leaning on partners. I think that's a big piece of the puzzle.
Great advice, Tom. That was amazing. I want to congratulate you once again for this book. I can't wait to get my hands on it and dive in, and of course try the augmented cover experience. How should people get in touch with you?
Well, you can always find me on LinkedIn. The book's at thenextdimensionbook.com. And before we go, I want to say thank you so much, Ori, to you, because I would not be here without you, and the space would not be here without you. And so from the bottom of my heart, I really do thank you for the opportunities and also what you've done to the space. And so just thank you. And thank you for allowing for me to be here today. Thank you, Tom.
Really appreciate the kind words. So what's your next stop on your book tour?
I'll be at CES, and then I'm going to be heading next year to LA, of course, to AWE USA. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be there. So you can come find me. But of course, I'm going to be home at AWE next year.
Awesome, Tom. I believe that 2025 will be another great year for XR. And if we bring up the slides, I know that AWE events this year in the US or next year in the US, Asia, and Europe will be the biggest XR show ever. So I definitely recommend to take a look at these and get your tickets early. The cost now is really the lowest possible, and you'll feel special, I promise. Thank you, Tom, for the book is The Next Dimension. Buy it, read it, study it. And thank you all for joining us today. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody.